It's been 9 days since the launch of Tekken 8 Season 3. As you can see, Season 3.0 or Patch 3.0 came out on March 17th. I'm recording this on March 26th. Today's the day where they're releasing an emergency patch. It was 9 days of silence. And then last night, they announced that they were going to do this emergency patch. They also talked a bit about what to expect with the direction of the game going forward, which is what's most interesting because historically, with the pre-Season 2 launch and the pre-Season 3 launch, what was promised is very different from what was delivered. I'll read the update notes here, and we'll see if they talk about the philosophy, but if not, I'll go back to their previous post where they do discuss this. Usual stuff about scheduling, the replays break. Okay, playable characters. Character move behavior fixes. Now, I've talked about this before. I think the system changes tend to be decent. The character changes tend to be really where a lot of the design problems are. Like, they're really bad character changes from the perspective of people who want a traditional Tekken experience. The developers appear to want a different philosophy, creating a different Tekken, potentially for a different audience, but it's hard to say. If you look at the character changes alone, though, it looks ugly most often. It's not all bad, of course. There were some really good targeted nerfs for certain characters, so I hope to see a discussion on those things, like character weakness. We will implement fixes at an early stage for issues that were unintentionally changed in the previous update, version 3.0, items where the response has been insufficient, and bugs that are causing significant disadvantage to players. I don't know what items where the response has been insufficient means. Does it just mean they didn't like hit a character as hard as they wanted? Like, is the response from the dev team or from us? I don't know what that means. The bugs and unintentional changes obviously make sense. Looking ahead, we plan to release update data, including balance adjustments 3.02 in mid-April and 3.01 in late spring. Oh, sorry, 3.0.02 and then 3.01 in the late spring. So this is like a micro patch, just the bug fixes, and then a balance update in mid-April. So roughly 3 to 4 weeks from now. And then late spring, I'm assuming means May, and is going to be a bigger version update. I didn't realize that this is just a partial update. We are currently reviewing priorities while considering fixes for bugs, adjustments to behaviors that lead to excessive rewards, and performance tuning centered on the heat system. Fixes that can be addressed in the short term will be implemented sequentially, while changes with greater impact will be introduced step by step through each update after sufficient verification. For more details on our future response policy, please refer to the following article. Okay, so that's the previous article they put out before these patch notes, and we will check that out, but I want to look at the specific changes first. I will say excessive reward is always an interesting key phrase they use, because it doesn't address the depth of the mind game leading to the reward. So when they increase the HP to 200, when they reduce like damage or counter hit launch properties, they're still coming from like neutral skips or like long range homing moves versus long range linear plus frame mids. You know, I would like to see them address not just the reward, but the design. Regardless of what your opinion is on heat, I don't think it's being removed. I think heat is a workable system. I don't think it's the most elegant, but I think it's a workable system. Really, what I find to be most concerning is the character designs. That's my number one issue with Tekken 8 right now. Anyways, detailed information for each update will be provided in the patch notes on the day of release. In addition, future updates will be announced as appropriate via the official Twitter account. Okay? And then I guess these are the changes. Now, I'm not expecting a lot here. Not expecting a lot at all. Unintentional behavior, items that had not been properly handled. Okay, so they rephrase that. And issues causing significant disadvantages to players. Let's take a look. Behavior when attacked while down. The behavior that occurs when certain moves hit an opponent in a face-down knockdown state had unintentionally changed in the previous update, so it has been corrected. The following moves are affected. Look at these moves if you play these characters. While I'm glad that they're finding bugs that, you know, can be fixed and they address it, I feel like there are really big concerns that are, you know, well, I haven't read the rest of the patch. Maybe they are addressed. Fang Heat Smash. Fix an issue where by performing an input at a specific timing, it was possible to Heat Smash over and over. Yeah, so he had like an infinite Heat Smash glitch. Heihachi up back 1+2. Fix an issue where you could instant charge it without entering the correct command. Yeah, so the two main bugs. What else is there? Jack 8 up forward 3 and during heat up forward 3. Increase the recovery time when transitioning into Gamma Howl on hit by 17 frames. And this should prevent the pseudo infinite, where as long as he had heat gauge, he could keep stomping on you. King Heat Smash. Fix an issue where transitioning into Jaguar Sprint on block, it was not possible to perform the reverse special bomb. I don't think that's the correct terminology, but yeah, the chain throw. I'm gonna move myself up here. Leo back 3+4. Fix an issue where Heat Burst and Heat Smash could not be performed using the Heat Burst Heat Smash button. Lydia Cat 4 3+4 and Horse Dance 1+2. Oh, this was a visual effect bug where it would do slow-mo hit effects, and it was really dramatic. Nothing functional, I don't think. Steve's flicker stance parry is now fixed. That one was giving you a backsway in Season 3.0. People were complaining about as if it were like a design change, but I was pretty sure it was just a bug because it wasn't noted in the patch notes. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the end. Fix an issue where the magic mirror setting configured prior to the update was unintentionally reset. Okay, so these are the main changes, just bug fixes as we thought. Okay, wait, and then before we go to the balance philosophy part, I just remembered that there are characters who, when they whiff a heat smash, it will still wall splat. The characters who had wall splatting heat smashes, from a design standpoint, all got them removed. But most of the characters, aside from Jin Kazama, if they whiffed the first hit of the heat smash, the rest of it would still wall splat. So does that mean it's intended behavior? Or is it a bug? It's a little alarming to me that they didn't fix it in this patch. I would not imagine that that's a difficult bug to fix, but it's a heavily game warping one that characters can whiff and still get a wall splat on the follow-up hits of the heat smash. Let's take a look at their official statement on what their design changes are going to be. Yeah, this is the more interesting article because the patch notes are just bug fixes, but this will speak on their direction, and considering that Tekken 8 is also getting like a smaller negative review bomb, it's still like, you know, getting a bit of a review bomb, but it's not as bad as the Season 2 one. Considering that response, considering Nee has said on his stream that he doesn't think the game is going to be fixed, like realistically, it's going to be interesting to hear Bandai Namco's response here because they have been silent since Season 3 launched. Upcoming battle balance adjustments for Season 3. Thank you very much for playing Tekken 8. Since the release of version 3.0, we've received a large volume of feedback through the Tekken Dev Feedback Portal, which is a Discord server. In the first week alone, we've received over 700 submissions, and we were reviewing each report on a daily basis while proceeding with the necessary responses and adjustments. I've been to the feedback portal. I'm messaging a little bit in the Steve section because I've seen some bugs that I think are issues, but I wanted to compare with other Steve mains. Reading the submissions in the Discord has made me feel like somewhat of a failed Tekken educator because while there are some legitimate complaints and like bug reports, there are certain takes on certain characters that would perpetuate the issues that many people have with Season 2 and Season 3, where people are more concerned with their own character's weaknesses rather than what it's like to interact both as the character and against the character, and kind of creating a healthy game that is fun to play for attacker and defender. There are a lot of reports or requests for buffs that do not align with the idea that the game should be fun for both players, and I disagree with a lot of those. And the fact that they've gotten over 700 submissions in the first week, I do not know how they're going to manage this and somehow get a coherent vision of the game out of it. That is quite concerning to me. In version 3.0, we implemented adjustments aimed at maintaining each character's individuality while reducing excessive rewards, particularly those stemming from the heat system and character-specific enhanced states, in order to improve overall balance. However, we recognize that the battle experience we intended to deliver has not fully met your expectations. I have thoughts, let's keep reading. Moving forward, we will continue to pursue a battle experience where offense and defense are balanced around the heat system, allowing players to engage in meaningful mind games and decision-making against their opponents. While maintaining the direction of the version 3.0 adjustments, we will continue addressing elements that still result in excessive rewards or one-sided gameplay. These issues will be improved step by step through individual behavior fixes and performance adjustments. Okay, I have thoughts. The priority I think that Season 3 took, and Season 2 to a large extent, is balancing the whole cast, making everybody pretty competitively viable, which is maybe the one thing they sort of succeeded at, right? And that's why they focus on reducing excessive rewards. Because if you have characters doing absolutely nonsense mix-ups, the only way it can be balanced is if they get very little reward out of it, or if the other characters get similar reward out of it, so everybody's fair. But I don't think that necessarily makes a fun game. If Lydia is doing a homing high that you cannot backdash, right, it covers too much of the screen. So you're forced to either do a literal world champion level sidestep duck to evade in order to also dodge her mid mix up with that. I don't think that's fun for most players. So the reward of it aside, the gameplay itself is not super deep, which is why when they say meaningful mind games, I wonder if they know what those are, respectfully. I wonder if we are talking about the same thing when they say meaningful mind games. meaningful mind games and decision making against their opponents. When they say decision making against their opponents, I'm curious if they're also considering the defenders, because there's meaningful decision making as the attacker if you have more weaknesses. Sure. But the defender's choices should also influence you as the attacker. And it's more than just ducking and stand blocking, or sidestepping and stand blocking, right? Like a homing high versus a mid. There's more to the decision making. Like, am I challenging on a certain timing at a certain spacing? Are these characters just using their high evasive moves to get under jabs? Or are we going to, say, like dash in and duck to beat a high move with intentionality? I'm curious if they're considering all these things, or if we're continuing to get more rock, paper, scissors, this button beats this button, like stand block or just duck or just sidestep. There's a lot more depth that can happen in Tekken based on timing with stronger movement. So I'm curious if they're going to include those things in their future design decisions. The hardest part, though, is these words sound nice, but we've been let down by the words multiple times now. So it's always going to come down to the changes. I'm not going to let myself get my hopes up until we see changes that move in this direction. Because, yeah, on one hand, reducing excessive reward or one-sided gameplay is good, but if the one-sided gameplay is still ultimately a rock, paper, scissors, and there's not a lot of like risk mitigation or using information on your opponent outside of just the RPS, rock, paper, scissors decisions, I'm not sure it's going to make the game necessarily better. Like, meaningful mind games is the key word here, and I have not seen a lot of evidence that they are going to be able to push this in a direction that previous Tekkens used to do. Here's their schedule for the upcoming changes. 3.001 is what just came out. 3.002 is going to be in mid-April. And then a proper 3.1 patch is happening in late spring. They mentioned battle balance adjustments in the 002 update. And I'm assuming 3.01 will also have balance updates along with Kunimitsu. That's my assumption. We are currently reviewing priorities while considering fixes for bugs, adjustments to behaviors that result in excessive rewards, and performance tuning centered on the heat system. Fixes that can be addressed in the short term will be implemented sequentially, while changes with significant impact will be introduced step by step through each update after sufficient verification. I would like to see the meaningful mind games part of this. Noticeably missing. Anyways, further details and exact release timing will be announced once finalized. About the feedback portal. Currently, the Tekken Dev feedback portal is being operated with the highest priority placed on the early identification of bugs and unintended behaviors. Yes, we are the testers currently. The priority of responses is determined with reference to the level of community reaction engagement within the official Discord server. It's rough, but I don't hate this. If the theory that they're understaffed is true, and the community, who historically cares a lot about, where Tekken ends up, is able to provide testing, this is fine. Like, it's not fantastic to me, but it's better than nothing, right? At least we can get closer to a functional game. People were talking way back about having like a public beta test server or whatever, or like testing a new version of the game earlier. This is this isn't the same thing, but it's in that direction. So, it's something. Version 3.0.01 focused primarily on reports with strong community response and limited scope of impact. 3.002 and beyond. Other issues and behaviors will be individually reviewed and addressed in sequence, okay? Adjustments to the battle system and character performance are being made on a comprehensive evaluation, including submissions to the portal. In response to the large number of requests regarding the game, we have introduced a new category that allows users to submit requests related to battle and system. We're also planning to introduce channels within the official Discord where players can discuss submitted requests with each other. We will provide further updates once preparations are complete. We are aware that there are requests for individual feedback from the development team regarding submitted reports. However, at this time, we are prioritizing improvements to the gameplay experience and are focusing our efforts on fixes and adjustments. We will continue to review how to address this moving forward. Yeah, this is the most concerning part, that players are going to make requests to the battle changes in the system. There was already so much noise from the Tekken fan base about what changes are good, what changes are healthy. Most people cannot agree on what made Season 2 or 3 bad, but I think most high-level players will generally agree that the game is very offense-focused in a way that is not very engaging for the defender. Right? It's not just about the whole idea of turtling against someone and having every move for the attacker be useful to break the turtling. A game can be aggressive and still be interesting to defend against, right? Common example given is the kind of like golden era of Tekken, like Tekken 5 DR, Tekken 6, Tekken Tag 2. Those games had a lot of defensive strength because sidestepping and backdashing was so good, but it also enabled attackers to have a lot of freedom because now movement itself became an attack. While there have been sections of the community that disagree with that approach, I think we're seeing the consequence of swinging too far in the aggressive direction, where now buttons do so much that it feels almost impossible to have a robust game that's fun for both defender and attacker. So I hope that's something they'll prioritize more than the people who just want their characters buffed. And if you don't believe me, you can check out that Discord. There are a lot of people asking for buffs for their characters, which is quite disappointing to me. I've always been very vocal since Season 1 about every character needing nerfs. Any character you take from this game and you put in an old Tekken game, they'd be a God mode character, top tier. I am always hoping that they tone down the experimental changes, because if we are going to go back to that old argument of, Tekken having an arcade release and then a refined release, the arcade release experiments a ton, and then the later releases tone it down. I'm hopeful that toning things down becomes a philosophy that the dev team is willing to accept. Ultimately, it's a lot of words about what they plan to do, but as we've seen through multiple seasons now, the words are not enough. We have to see what actions come out of it. I don't have much more to say. Again, I always say the same thing at the end of these types of videos. If you enjoy Tekken 8, there's no reason to stop, because I am expressing a distaste for the current direction of the game. If you don't enjoy Tekken 8, there's plenty of other games to play. I'll be playing a bit more Deadlock. I'll be playing a bit more Fortnite. I'm experimenting with a bit more variety on the second channel and on stream as well. Would appreciate if you check it out if you feel like it. Oh, and Rush is a really exciting indie game that captures a lot of the classic Tekken feel. I'll be doing videos on that coming up, but I want to get a bit more experience in the game and maybe create some onboarding for that game as well. Super, super fun game from a Tekken community member, a single person dev team. Very impressive stuff. Last thing I'll say about Rush is that the netcode is super, super good. It's the closest thing you can get to a 3D footsies game. All of the Tekken that you would want without a lot of the bloat like string defense and all these things. That's all I have for you today. Leave a like and a comment if you haven't already. Subscribe for more, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. It's been 9 days since the launch of Season 3. As you can see...
Hi-fi. Hope you're good.
Hey, thanks, man. Now I got to do another retake, but I do appreciate the 11 months of generosity. Can't make that shit up, bruh.